Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to show you how I make my absolute favorite peanut butter vegan cookies. And whilst these cookies are in the oven, I'm going to share with you guys some of the ups and downs I am personally encountering along my vegan journey. But first things first, let's go make these cookies. Alright, we are going to need 1 cup of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 generous pinch of mineral salt. These are our dry ingredients. Let's set them aside. We'll need 1 cup of natural peanut butter, 6 tablespoons of almond milk, 1 cup of coconut or pure cane sugar, and 2 teaspoons vanilla extract. Blend the wet ingredients together. Next, we will add the wet mixture to the dry. Oh, this is not gonna work. Wow guys, this looks so good. It's kind of sticky, so it's gonna take a while, but it's definitely worth it. And of course, I don't want to waste any of this goodiness. It's getting hard to get down here. I think I'm gonna need a spoon. Really trying to go under the blades too, but I'm a bit scared to go there with my fingers because I have a few friends that had bad accidents with blenders, so be careful. Okay, so I guess this is as clean as it gets. And now we mix to combine. Okay, so the dough will get tough to stir, so using your hands might be the best way to go. And actually I find it much more satisfying. As a kid I always used to bake and I just loved using my hands to mix up cookies. So there you go. Now we're going to line a sheet with parchment paper and start rolling out the dough. I'm going to scoop the dough with a 1 tablespoon scooper. And you're going to create these little balls of dough and set them approximately 2 inches apart. I'm always worried that cookies are going to grow too much, so I'll actually give them a bit more space. I could probably fit in more, but For safety reasons, I'll just stick to 12 and I'll just do them in more batches. Using a fork, the next step will be to flatten them in a crisscross pattern. So there you go, they already look delicious. Now we're going to cook these cookies in the oven for approximately 10 to 13 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or at 180 degrees Celsius. Okay, so as many of you guys have been asking me about this on my Instagram page, I thought it was time for me to talk to you guys a little bit about the struggles I am personally encountering along my vegan journey. And I'm calling this video my vegan journey and not my vegan story because as of now, the day in which I'm filming this video, which is Friday the 22nd of May 2020, I'm not a vegan yet, but I'm definitely on the research process towards becoming one. I am not a person, nor have I ever been a person, to blindly plunge into something without having gathered enough information. Nor am I a person to follow the latest trend just because it's cool. And I do take this topic extremely seriously, so I'm really trying to gather a 360-degree perspective on this before I'll be able to fully consciously call myself a vegan. That includes for me taking into account an infinite number of aspects into consideration, which include, but are not limited to, health, ethics, lifestyle, the economy, the environment, and nutrition. This journey started all the way back in 2011. I was 24 years old and was going on a little weekend trip with my boyfriend. We were living in London at the time and decided we wanted to get out of the city, so we planned a trip to Arundel in West Sussex, England. We spent so much time hiking through the beautiful green hills and came across so many herds of cows. And one day I decided to slow down and take a moment to truly observe these beautiful creatures. I know that might sound odd to some of you, but you have to understand where I was coming from. I was a big city girl. I was born in a big city, I grew up in a big city, and at the time I had only really lived in big capital cities in Europe. So, being so close to nature was truly new and somewhat foreign to me. So, I was looking at these gorgeous Jersey cows when one cow came closer to me. And we stood there just looking at each other in the eyes for what felt to me like at least 10 minutes. And I don't know how or what happened, but in that moment something just clicked in me and I knew with such clarity that I never wanted to eat beef in my life ever again. And I don't know how to say this on the internet without sounding corny or mawkish, and I am of course aware that there is a big difference between a human being and a cow. But in that moment, which I somewhat shared with this animal, I was overflooded by what I can only describe as a deep-rooted, empathic understanding of all the things that we actually have in common and share with these beautiful creatures. So, after this encounter in the spring of 2011, I decided to completely cut red meat from my diet. However, because of my upbringing and my, at the time, misunderstanding of the meaning of the widespread common societal knowledge that a healthy diet is a balanced and varied diet, I still kept eating white meat and poultry at the time. And I ate this way for approximately half a year until December 2011. But back in September of 2011, I had moved in with a girl whose mother was a vegetarian. And although neither of us was a vegetarian at the time, I noticed that the topic of eating meat or not eating meat kept surfacing in our conversations. It was very clear that we were both going through a period of transition and confusion, a period filled of so many questions and very few answers. And without openly communicating it to one another, I noticed that we both started drastically reducing the meat consumption in our diets. That was until December 2011. Around Christmas time, just before our winter break, we decided to throw a little Christmas-themed dinner party for our boyfriends. We wanted to plan and cook a menu together based on the British Christmas cooking tradition. Our main course was a stuffed lemon and garlic festive roast turkey, which actually took us the whole day to prepare from scratch. I remember really enjoying eating that meal, but that was actually the last time I have ever had meat in my life. I liked eating meat. I didn't stop eating meat because I disliked the flavor. I stopped eating meat because I had made the connection back in the spring of 2011 that the meat on my plate was actually not long ago a sentient, living and breathing animal whose life was cut short for it to end on my plate. And of course I knew this way before the spring of 2011, but until then I only understood it intellectually, and for whatever reason I wasn't really allowing myself to fully process it in my heart. And once you reach that deeper level of understanding and you make the empathic connection, you start a ball rolling, which is really, really hard to stop. So after that meal, I decided that I really didn't need meat to fully enjoy the festive period. And by the end of 2011, I had fully cut meat and poultry from my diet. 2012 was the year in which I became a pescatarian. And it was a year full of struggles, and I was constantly questioning and doubting myself. I had changed company, and funnily enough, the two dancers I had gotten closer to were also on their personal, ethical and dietary journey. One of them was a pescatarian just like me at the time, whilst the other one was constantly weaving in and out of a plant-based diet. Again, clearly I wasn't the only one trying to find the right balance between ethics, health and nutrition. And the fact that I wasn't alone on this journey really gave me a true sense of validation, because in that period I kept encountering so many new different people from all over the world, all of whom I deemed extremely smart and intelligent, that were all going through the same questions and doubts that were eating me inside. Like everyone, I knew oh so well that before ending on my plate, fish were living, sentient beings just like any other terrestrial animal. So why did I keep eating fish if I wasn't eating meat anymore? I didn't even like eating fish. I just kept eating fish because I was under the impression that if I stopped eating fish, I would miss out on such a vast amount of nutrients which I thought were essential for the human health. But ethically, being a pescatarian was such a big contradiction. I felt unaligned and uncentered and completely unhappy with all my dietary choices. But it wasn't until Christmas of 2012 that this truly hit home. I went home for Christmas and my family was really supportive and understanding of my choice to become a pescatarian. So for Christmas they decided to organize this wonderful, festive, hearty fish-based buffet. And I was so unsettled. In that moment I realized how many lives had been killed just for me to enjoy this heartwarming family gathering. And I didn't want that. I was really happy to see my family and I was really grateful for what they did for me. But Christmas to me is about peace and love, and all I could see on my plate was violence. And I didn't want that in my life anymore. However, I did eat my meal and decided not to be the Grinch and ruin everyone's Christmas. But the day after, I announced to my family that I made the decision to become a vegetarian. 2013 was the year in which I became a vegetarian and started gaining quite some weight. I was terrified from a nutritional point of view that I was not going to get enough protein on a vegetarian diet. And I knew very well that I didn't want to go back to eating fish or meat. So I did what many newbie vegetarians do, which is to substitute any meat or fish meal you would have for cheese and eggs. Needless to say, the fat and cholesterol levels in my blood just soar. 1 year after transitioning to a vegetarian diet, I decided to get my blood checked, and it came back with elevated cholesterol levels and lowered iron levels. Nothing major or dramatic, neither my doctor nor I were really worried about it, but it did give us some indications about some things I could change in my diet. In order to lower my cholesterol levels, my doctor advised me to eat a maximum of 1 egg per week and to reduce the size of my cheese servings. And as far as iron goes, I was just told to eat more iron-rich leafy greens such as spinach, kale, Swiss chard and collards, which I wasn't really eating a lot of at the time. So to be honest with you, at that point in time I felt a bit lost, because my vegetarian journey so far had only been about eliminating foods that I knew without integrating new ones, and that was wrong. I knew in my heart that I didn't want to go back to eating meat and fish, but I also knew that I really didn't want to get sick from being on a vegetarian diet. So I understood that the best thing I could do about it was to learn a bit more about nutrition. I bought 2 nutrition books for beginners and started thoroughly studying them, and it became more and more clear to me that a smartly planned vegetarian diet could be 100% balanced. I learned more about food groups and on how to combine them, but it became evident to me that I had no knowledge whatsoever on how to prepare a balanced vegetarian meal. So I asked around and I was introduced to the magical world of Pinterest, where I swear you can basically find any recipe you're looking for. So that's how my passion for cooking started. I set a goal for myself to try making at least 2 new recipes every single week. And as I was trying to cut on cheese and on eggs to avoid raising my cholesterol levels, I naturally orbited towards a mostly plant-based diet. And the word vegan all of a sudden started popping everywhere on my feeds. Be it on Pinterest, on Instagram, on YouTube. At some point, at least 70% of my suggested content was somehow related to veganism. And I hated it. I don't know why, but at the time I had a very strong, very irrational and very unmotivated resistance towards vegans. So I tried to ignore them and do my thing, but I finally caved into it and I watched my very first vegan content in the summer of 2016. There was a very active and very intertwined YouTube vegan community at the time, and I started binge watching their content. I loved watching Bonnie Rebecca's What I Eat in a Day videos, which I found truly inspiring. Although I think she's not that happy about them now, as she's no longer a vegan. I loved watching Unnatural Vegans content, I loved watching That Vegans Couple content, and of course the content of she who is known as the mother of vegan YouTube, which is Freely the Banana Girl. All of these YouTubers were very different from one another, and they had all very different styles and content. But I found them all thoroughly entertaining and somewhat controversial. However, besides all of their differences, they all shared this very strong underlying core message, which is that going vegan is basically the only way in which you can truly align your thoughts with your actions. And that was a very hard reality check for me. I learned through them that going vegan is not just a dietary choice, but it's a lifestyle choice. And that sadly but truly, the egg and dairy industries are just as cruel to the animals as the meat industry is. I was shook and I didn't know what to do, so I thought I really should take some time away from this content to fully process all this new information that I had gathered. And an inner dilemma started in me which hasn't left me yet. Because on one hand I have the ethical and emotional clarity that going vegan is the only way to go. But on the other hand, I have a deep-rooted fear that a 100% plant-based diet might not be the optimal diet for the human health. And as far as science and research goes, if you go on the internet and try to look for an unambiguous answer as to what the ideal diet for a human being is, you'll find yourself lost in a never-ending tangle of contradicting information. And by all means, if you're considering transitioning to a plant-based diet, please do your research and if possible, try to talk to your doctor about it. Because in all fairness, at this point in time, I wouldn't feel comfortable giving you guys any other kind of advice on this topic. So where do I stand today? I have been a vegetarian for 7 years now, and as of today, unless it's a survival or life-threatening situation, I can't see myself going back to eating any meat or fish. I have also almost transitioned to using 100% vegan products in my daily life, which includes my clothes, my home decor, my hair and body products, my makeup and my shoes, with the sole exception of point shoes. Because for those of you who are new here, I am a full-time professional dancer. I work in a theatre and I do dance on point shoes, which are unfortunately made out of silk and leather. And I have been looking into vegan point shoe options, but to be 100% honest with you, I still haven't found a vegan point shoe in which I feel safe and comfortable dancing in. I also do still owe some very old woolen jumpers that I bought years ago, and for environmental reasons, I don't feel comfortable just throwing them away. My plan with them is to wear them out and use them as much as possible, and I won't be buying any new woolen products from now on. As far as my diet goes, I would say that I am now 90 to 95% plant-based. I do still eat the occasional egg and dairy product, which I'm ethically not okay with, but until I am 100% sure that I won't be damaging my body on a vegan diet, I don't feel comfortable taking that step. However, I do care to clarify that every recipe you'll be seeing here on Elly's Diary is going to be 100% vegan, because ethically I don't feel comfortable sharing any other kind of recipe with you guys. I eat plant-based 90 to 95% of the time, so I would say that everything you see here is actually a quite accurate representation of my diet. However, as I'm not a vegan yet, and I'm just starting off on this YouTube adventure, I thought it was really important for me to share with you guys the struggles and doubts I'm personally encountering along my vegan journey in order to establish an honest and transparent conversation with you guys.
Friends since 1995. Growing up, same street, you, me, my ride or die. All the years it would grow us apart, yeah. Moved away, but you're still in my heart, yeah. Call you up, how you been? Can we play a rewind?
Guys, these are amazing. You should really try them at home. And let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!
I've been waiting on you for so long, and it's killing me to see you there with a broken heart.